The key to seeing what the future is in MF Global. MF Global, I believe, is just like everything else. If you understand what really is important in the MF Global story, you'll be so far ahead, you'll be able to protect yourself, your friends, your family, your neighbors, your community. But you need to understand the real story behind MF Global. It's not about Corazine, it's not about any of this stuff. And when the average person figures it out, which they will eventually, there will be a run on the banks and the stock market, and the whole game will come undone. But at that point, if you're with all of the other fish, you got a hook in your mouth, and it's too late. So let's dig in on the important stuff with MF Global. MF Global, these firms are, they're to help people invest, help investors trade public stocks and other securities. And here's what nobody has explained about MF Global. As their finances were crashing down, they actually blocked customers from their accounts for about a week. They couldn't sell. They incurred major losses. But that didn't happen with everybody. And now there's about $1 billion in cash missing. Do you see Corazine being vilified like Bernie Madoff was? No. He still, I guess, has credibility. He's dragged before Congress. He says, I don't know where the money is. So he's off the hook. End of the story of MF Global, and people move on. That's not even the beginning of the story. Should Corazine go to jail? Yeah, sure. What happened to the money? I don't know. But the most important thing that isn't being talked about is, does this affect me? No one is explaining it. So let me. Let's look at this, because really the stock market is like gambling. Let's look at this as gambling and monopoly money, which really is what's happening. Regular people trusted MF Global with their hard-earned money, but so did Goldman Sachs and people like J.P. Morgan. They put millions in as well. The Soroses of the world came in the end and made a nice profit. But the big banks and the institutions such as Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan, they were there, and they had all their money on the table. And the big guys were all there, and so were the little guys. You put your money in, possibly. I know people who lost money at MF Global. But not everybody lost money. If you put your money in, you should be safe shielded from everyone else if you're not in on this kitty. If you have your money over here, you're not part of this table. Example, if you go to Vegas, there's everybody sitting at various gaming tables. Everybody's putting their own money at risk in one way or another. Some people are playing very small hands, and they're over here. Others are drunk, and they are bleeding money. You know the guy who's like, hit me, and you want to hit him, but he's talking to the dealer, and he's on 19, and that makes you want to hit him? If you bet crazy like this, and let's say he wins against the house, and there's a big pile of money up there, and the house is like there, he's never going to win, but he wins. The house doesn't come over to you and take what you had on the table to pay the drunk guy. It doesn't happen that way. If that guy goes down, he goes down by himself. If the house goes down, they don't take your money to help pay the drunk guy. It doesn't happen. You're not held responsible for someone else's losses or his wins or the house. You're responsible for what you're doing with your hand. But that's not what happened to well over 40,000 small-time players. Not the big guys. People like you, people like me at MF Global. This is like a safety deposit box. This system should have been like a safety deposit box. Think of it this way. You go into a bank and you have money, diamonds, whatever. And you go into a bank and a safety deposit box and you put your money in here. The bank has a key and you have a key, right? Now there's a run on the bank. And the bank takes all the cash that they have, in the vaults and everything else, and there's a run on the bank, and they pay it all out. They give it to everybody coming in here. You know, you've seen the Jimmy Stewart movie. They pay it in. They give it all. They take all the chips, and they pay everything out. There's still people standing in line. Here's what they don't do. They don't say, hey, Bill, get the keys for Susie's safety deposit box. Let's see if Susie has anything. And then open up the safety deposit box that belongs to Susie and rifles through it and see if there's any cash there. And take it out and pay it to the big customers, the Mr. Potters of the world. That's what they don't do unless they're MF Global. They blocked people from getting into their safety deposit box, if you will, and took their valuables and gave them to JP Morgan, gave them to Goldman Sachs. That's what happened, really happened at MF Global. After a horrible, horrible bet on, of all things, European sovereign debt, even Mike Tyson, a guy who blew through $300 million on Siberian tigers, mansions, limos, and hookers, would say, you guys are crazy. Nobody does that. And when the euro started to decline and MF Global started going belly up, they desperately tried to cover their tracks and pay the big guys. And they actually looted the safety deposit boxes to pay off the creditors, including Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. Remember, MF Global physically stopped you, the little guy, from being able to access your account into the safety deposit box. And what's worse is that MF Global's role, that's not. The banking authorities who handled the firm's bankruptcy allowed this to happen. In fact, I believe changed some of the rules to allow it to happen. It's exactly the same thing that happened to the bondholders at GM. Whoever the government decides is the winner, whoever the government says, you know what, they're more important, they can't fail, they get the money in the end, and you lose. So what does that mean? So why am I telling you all of this? Why is this so important? Because there is no safe place for your money in the end of a system like this. We are now becoming the opposite of what George Washington said we were. We are a country of men and not laws. That's not what we were supposed to be. We're a country of laws and not men. But now, the more important you are to the collective, if you're more important than that guy, you win, he loses. If he's more important than you, you lose. Well, you can't build anything of trust there because there are no rules except for the big guys. When people all around the world figure this out, which they will, eventually they will pull their money in panic out of mutual funds, out of investments, out of the banks. There'll be runs on the banks. And they will try to pour their money into something of value, but by that time it's gone. There's only so much of this on the planet. By that time, they will be regulated. By that time, you won't be able, it will look like Italy. You won't be able to buy anything with cash. The system will break down. But those who get there first have a shot. And they will invest in anything of intrinsic value. That's why I think gold, that's why I think diamonds and gold and land. You know, land, farms are going through the roof. Your house may be in the toilet, but farmland has gone up. Who's buying it? Who's buying all the diamonds? Really? When you run out of those things, and when your cash is worthless, then the one who has the lead and the brass has the power. If you don't prepare yourself wisely, the best metals to invest in won't be gold and silver. They will be brass and lead.